On today's video, I'm going to give you my best tips how to use a paintbrush. I got my tools and supplies ready. Let's get to it. The very cool and pretty basic tip is always wet your brush. And let me show you how to do that. So the first step is pretty basic. You just put the water on. But then you have to make sure that you get rid of all the excess of the water. Otherwise, when you hold your brush up against the ceiling, the water is going to find its way out and make a bit of a mess with wet paint on your hand, on the brush. It's just going to be very messy. So let me show you how to do that. You gotta make sure that you go outside or your floor is protected. I'm at my shop, so I don't really care about the floor. And my brush is relatively clean, it's just clean water. But when you do it next time, make sure that it's as clean as possible and make sure you don't make mess on the floor. So here's the tips. So all that water gets under my foot and this dry is now pretty much dry, though still wet enough to do the trick. Just took apart my YouTube setup here. So once the brush is ready, you're pretty much ready to go. This is a nice handy bucket. I like these and I also like these ones, the Pelican. So the main difference is this one only holds the brush. The other one also holds the roller, the whiz roller. This little guy right here. There's a little roll-off area, so you can also use your whiz roller. That's the only difference. On this video, I'm going to use the Pelican one. You can either get some disposable liners, use it as is, and then wait for the paint to dry, or you can use some cheap plastic like I like to do. All right, so you want to get yourself a little plastic, fold it in half, put it over your bucket, and then pour the paint in to push the plastic down. Another cool tip is I really like these Alpha knives, especially this one right here. First of all, it's got its metal tail right here. That helps me with opening cans and unscrewing the plug covers, but also it's super easy to get the blade out. Instead of that plastic wheel, this thing is super easy to use. Then what happens is your paint pushes the plastic down, and now you can wrap it around with a little bit of masking tape. Apparently, the disposable liners are a lot easier to use, but hey, when you don't have them on hand, you gotta be a little creative, right? This thing works just great. Now you're ready to make your first cut. Now we're ready to do the cut-ins. And here's how I like to apply my first coat of cut-ins. First of all, as everybody else tells you, you get a little paint on a brush, not too much so it doesn't drip on you, and not too little so you have some stuff on it. And then you get your line on. You don't go super close the first time. What you want to do the first time is you want to get some paint on the wall. I try to stay about a 1/4 inch off the ceiling, and now when I have my paint on, my fine cut in is going to slide a lot easier when I do have that paint on. So what I do now is I reload the brush, get off the excess. I do have some stuff on it now, and now I'm actually ready to cut. So here's how I push on the brush. I push it the way so the entire surface of the brush stays close to the ceiling, but only the very tip draws that fine line. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So basically the first couple of inches of the brush that are not too close to the ceiling feeds the fine tip that makes my final fine cut. And that's the line that you get. Next, the very important part is the corners. Let me show you how I go about the corners. So that is the spot. When I get closer to the corner, here's what I do. Again, I load my spot with the paint so it has something on it. You shouldn't have too much paint on it. And then I have to make sure that the inside of my brush has some paint in it, but the outside doesn't. So I kind of clean off all the paint from the outside of my brush and use the very, very tip of the brush to draw that fine corner. And I get inside of the corner first with that tip. And I kind of push it in and out, in and out, in and out until I'm happy with the result. I go little by little until I'm really happy with it. And by doing that, I kind of push the paint onto the very edge of the wall. And that's that. Let me do another one on the opposite side. And that's that, you're ready to carry on. My tip number 3 on the cuts would be always feather the paint. Never leave any hanging paint, because when it dries, it looks terrible. Very simply, as you move along, kind of go back and feather the edges real nice and smooth, and that's as easy as that. Before you run back to the tools and start your job, because I know you're anxious, now you know how to do it, let me show you how to clean the brush quickly and properly. All right, so here's my go-to technique. This is our shop sink. By the way, use a laundry sink, and in the worst case scenario, white ceramic sink. It's a lot easier to clean versus stainless steel kitchen sink. Never use that one. So the first part is pretty easy, just wash off the most amount of paint on it. And what you want to do next is you want to get rid of the paint from the core of the brush. And you do it by lightly pushing onto the brush like this. And that's as easy as that. It should take you about 30 minutes if you do everything right. And then you do the most important part, which is drying the brush, which I already showed you at the beginning of the video. All right, we're back in business. Now, if this is your first job and you're really scared, or you tried and you're ready to give up on this, I have something for you. For all of you, my friends, professional painters out there, I know you're gonna say, meh, but for a lot of people that do this for the first time, this can save your life. This is what it is. It's a frog tape, delicate surface tape. It's a yellow color tape. It has very low adhesion, but the technology of adhesive side of it helps you lock the edge, and it won't allow your paint to bleed under the edge. And here's my best tips how to use this tape. First, you want to do some Christmas decorations using this tape. Let me show you what I mean. When you have the tape loose, like so, you're actually able to produce a way cleaner line. Now let me show you how to do that. So basically what you're doing right now with the tape loose, you're guiding the tape using that straight edge of the straight tape without any tension on it. And it's a lot easier to work without that heavy roll of tape in your hand. I press with the thumb of my left hand here and guide the tape and guide the loose tape with my right hand. As you can see, when I need to turn around and twist my hand, it's a lot easier to work with this tape because it's up in the air and it's loose, it's out. I don't have that heavy roll of tape in my hand. I can really see where my line is, and it can really make it crisp and straight. I press with my thumb every 5 inches or so, sometimes a little more depending on how straight our ceiling is. And here's a pro tip. You actually want to have a little paint of the wall color on the ceiling to make that nice straight line. And here's the difference. When the wall is darker than the ceiling, like in my case, you don't want to see the white line on the wall, but you don't really mind a tiny bit of a gray line on the ceiling. You kind of see it as a shadow. So that's why we want to leave a tiny bit of a gap with the frog tape on the ceiling. And now when my tape is on, I gently press all along and then press a little harder with my finger in the very corner. Another pro tip before you paint against this frog tape, you want to wet the edge of it with any kind of sponge or paper towel. So what that is going to do is it's going to activate that fancy adhesive on the frog tape and help prevent bleeding of the paint. Just wait until the end, you're going to be surprised how nice it looks. All right, so now I'm holding my paintbrush the way I want. I don't really have to do a very nice job against the ceiling because now I have my protection on there. All right, let's see what newbie can do with this tape. You still want to feather your edge to make it all consistent and not have any runs. But that's about it. I'm almost done and ready to pull the tape. Keep in mind that you have to do 2 coats. So let the first coat dry a little bit and then follow with the second coat, and then you're ready to remove. Preferably when the tape is still wet. All right, here's the final reveal. There we go, my line is as crisp as it can get. The other thing is, you might have noticed how I pulled the tape. I pulled it closer to the ceiling. This way, there's less chance that the paint's gonna peel off any of the ceiling paint. But that rarely happens because of the low adhesion of the yellow tape. but still we want to minimize the chances and the risks of touch-ups on the ceilings. Don't mind the ceiling condition, guys. This is our shop. It's a completely disaster. Pay attention to the line. That's my cut line over there, and this is my frog tape. You see a tiny bit of a gray line on it? That's exactly what we're looking for. And there is no bleeding whatsoever. So what that really means is that even the person that never held a brush in hands ever can do this hard part of the job with ease. I hope this helps you guys, and I hope that the next video helps you even more.